You know, I've been playing TF2 since 2011, so... I think I've been a scout main long enough to say the force of nature is a piece of freaking garbage. Okay, not a good start to a video. Let's go back. The double-barreled shotgun has a very long history in video games. It has always been a symbol of power and brute force. This reputation is believed to originate from the Model 99 1887 coach gun that had two hammers on either side of the weapon that when pulled back allowed the firing of the respective barrel. This allowed the capability of pulling both back at the same time to fire both barrels at once. Completely impractical and clearly overkill, but was simply too cool not to put in a video game. Fast forward to 1994, and with the release of Doom 2, the world is subject to the awesome might of the double-barrel shotgun for the first time in a video game. Unless you count Outlander, or Mad Max, or Oregon Trail, under the very well-deserved moniker, the Super Shotgun. This is the appearance that firmly cemented the double-barrel shotgun into pop culture as a righteous weapon meant for the slaughtering of unholy monsters. Whether it was Evil Dead's Deadites or the hordes of undead in countless zombie movies, if you're on the receiving end of a blast from this baby, you weren't getting back up. Of course, it started popping up in all sorts of different FPSs, but no matter its appearance, as long as the designers knew what they were doing, it would devastate anything you came across. In Serious Sam, it saw a bit of a return to form, in that, like Doom 2, it was much more of an option for normal combat. The shortened reload time ensured it was viable not just for taking down the big boys, especially useful for dealing with those annoying clears. In Killing Floor, it was an option for the support class, and while it lacked in sustainability, it could shred through Zeds with the best of them. In 2007, with the release of TF2, we saw the inclusion of a couple different shotguns, but only one with two barrels, the Scattergun. The Scattergun was strong, versatile, and super reliable. But that was the problem. People don't want reliability and versatility from a double barrel. They want to bask in awe of its power. I guess some people at Valve thought this way as well, as only 2 years later in the Scout update, we would see the Force of Nature added to the game. Scout's first primary unlock. And even though it seemed a little dysfunctional, it appeared to be the perfect powerhouse we all love to see in a game. But don't be fooled. I said it appeared to be, because this is not the Super Shotgun. It's an illusion, a farce, because Valve knew they couldn't give us the gun we wanted without it being potentially overpowered, so they devised a clever ruse. Okay, enough with the theatrics. It's time to actually talk about the gun itself, starting with the stats from the weapon card. The Force of Nature begins with plus 50% faster firing speed, which is already a huge upside, giving it an attack interval of roughly 0.3 seconds, which is only 0.15 seconds off from the Scout's pistol. Considering the Scattergun already does a max of 105 damage, this means you can kill 8 of the 9 classes in the time it takes you to fire the Scattergun once. Next is knockback on the target and shooter. We're just gonna move this down here and talk about it later. Yeah. Anyway, plus 20% more bullets per shot. Even though this technically gives you only 2 more bullets per trigger pull, those extra pellets could hypothetically allow you to one-shot light classes, which apart from the new difficult to land spread the thing has, would be really neat and useful if not for... Frank. What? Why on earth would you reduce the damage of the Super Shotgun? That's the complete antithesis of power. Why would I even choose a double-barrel shotgun if I didn't want power? And yes, if you've been paying attention, you're probably saying,
but wait, plus 20% more bullets, 10% less damage. That still means higher damage, right?
Yes, you're completely right. It still does more damage. If you're within point-blank range and land all 12 pellets on your target at once, you will do 8 more damage.
What the fuck is this piece of shit?
8. Brute force and power, my bud. You trade 66% of your ammo capacity for 8 more damage. How remarkably depressing. But I don't really have any hard feelings toward the ammo reduction because, duh. 2 barrels, 2 shots, it's kinda what you sign up for. Now we're at the last listed stat. Knockback on the target and shooter. I'll talk about the negatives in a second. First, we'll list the facts and positives of this disguised downside. Upon dealing more than 40 damage to your target in one shot, you cause them to fly backward in a somewhat predictable arc. Despite my feelings toward it, this does always feel quite satisfying. And like it says, the knockback applies to you as well. If you fire it while in the air, you are propelled in the opposite direction. This can be used in creative ways to increase your maneuverability, like firing at the floor to give yourself an extra jump. But if you fire it at an angle, you can do what's called a fan jump, which doubles the effect. This is the highest possible height Scout can jump outside of using the Soda Popper sextuple jumps. And no, unfortunately, for whatever reason, you cannot stuff Ubers with it. The knockback doesn't apply. The only time it applies is when you don't want it to. And that's it. Now I'm gonna tear it anew. Do I even need to state why this stat completely ruins the weapon entirely? I guess I oughta. Every weapon in the game, with a few exceptions, is subject to something called damage fall-off and ramp-up, which are unique mechanics that keep the game from just being a long-range spam fest like TFC was. The further you are from your target, the less damage your attacks will deal. A soldier's rocket will deal 112 damage at point-blank range if hitting them directly, nearly killing light classes, but from long range, a direct hit will only deal 48, less than a sniper rifle body shot. The same rules apply to the force of nature. Being as close as possible will cause each pellet that lands to deal 9.45 damage, giving you that desired 113. But that damage falls off heavily. From not too far away, your pellet's damage will go all the way down to 3. And since you need to hit as many pellets as you can with your new spread, the only way you're going to deal enough damage in the fight is near point blank shots. But you know what happens when you deal decent damage to an enemy at close range? You distance yourself from them, reducing the damage of your next shot, forcing you to reload or switch weapons, and giving the enemy a chance to fight back. Yeah, that freaking knockback isn't looking so good now, is it? This freaking sucks. Like I said, dealing over 40 damage with a blast sends an enemy into an arc, causing them to potentially fly high into the air and out of your reach, meaning that that second shot you have at the ready becomes completely worthless. And even if they don't fly far, it's still reducing the damage of your subsequent shot by such a large amount that you're unlikely to kill anything that isn't a light class with it. So have fun going for that coveted medic pick your team desperately needs, because if you can survive long enough to get close to it, you're likely just digging your own grave, because medics that know how to surf damage are going to use that pushback to fly safely into the arms of their team. And of course, this means you can no longer fight in the front lines, because anything you hit hard is, like I said, going to fly straight back behind enemy lines again, where they're safest. This means you're best when fighting 1v1s against enemies in flank routes, because even though tight choke points are the bane of scouts entirely, this thing excels in them. You practically have to be close enough to see the pores on enemies' noses to have any hope of being effective with this piece of garbage, because the spread is so wide and each pellet so weak that it's barely worth using beyond close range. Also, this necessity creates a horrible mentality that I'm convinced is detrimental to your skill as a scout. Seriously, after using this thing for a while and adjusting to its crap factor, not to be confused with warp factor, I swear I had gotten worse at using the scattergun. Because when you're using the force of nature and you see a group of enemies, you think, okay, I guess I'll run in as close as possible and try to get one of them with 2 meat shots and then dip out of there, which almost always ends up getting you killed anyways. And yeah, I know what you're thinking.
Skill problem.
Yeah, I'll readily admit that while I'm quite good at Scout, I'm nowhere near Banny levels. I'm gonna miss. Not to mention, you're definitely not the most dangerous thing in close range, you know. Good luck dealing with those pyros, because they're not gonna need any fighting you. Your best bet when fighting a pyro, or anybody really, is to use your secondary almost exclusively. The pistols are still fantastic at medium range and can practically carry your worthless primaries single-handedly. Especially good for when you run up, miss both your shots, and are now out of ammo with a slow reload. And I'd highly discourage not running a pistol with it, because I tell ya, unless you're a god of consistently landing meat shots, you'll be using it plenty. In fact, while getting the footage for this video, you might notice I think I got more kills with my pistol than the weapon itself. The best pistol to use with it is going to be the pocket pistol, though a lot of people would say it's so good that it's best for all situations, but I digress. Because the higher DPS is going to be most useful at close range, as you'll be most capable of landing your shots, and the health recovery mechanic will help you heal off some of the damage you inevitably take after you've just run in at the enemy's face like an idiot. You're literally better off using any other primary. None of them punish you for using it correctly like this one does. If you don't want to use stock, stick with the soda popper instead. All the Force of Nature is a straight downgrade to stock anyways, and the soda popper is a straight upgrade to the Force of Nature. The title of this video is not clickbait. This is by far the most unreliable weapon in TF2. When a weapon is so unreliable that you get considerably better at using your secondary instead, you know it sucks. And as you may have picked up on, it really hits close to home for me, because when I was a noob back in the day, playing with my brother, going after the achievements together to get the new unlocks, and I got this thing, I loved it. I was so proud to have a new weapon for my favorite class, but as time went on, I soured toward the thing, like an old resentful husband. I hate it because I used to love it when I didn't know how bad it was. But now we're divorced and I'm happy with Scattergun, and although we entertain a few guests from time to time, I'll never leave her side. Just use any other weapon. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the video. Please forgive me if you enjoy using the Force of Nature. The last thing I want to do is make people feel bad for using weapons that I don't like. So if it's fun for you, go for it. Let me know in the comments what you think. Remember to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. I'm Cheif Balupa. Have a wonderful day.